Let's be honest. If evolution had a suggestion box, the very first note dropped in by humanity would be a frantic all-caps plea to delete this specific creature from the source code. You know exactly what I'm talking about. It is the shadow in your kitchen cabinet. It is the crunch you hear in a nightmare. It is the biological equivalent of a jump scare that doesn't just startle you, it violates the sanctity of your home. It's the cockroach. On the surface, this insect is a walking, skittering compilation of everything nature got wrong. It is repulsive, oily, and obsessed with filth. It doesn't hunt majestic prey. It eats your garbage. It doesn't build beautiful hives. It colonizes the space behind your dishwasher. It seems to exist solely to spread bacteria and trigger a primal, visceral gag reflex in every mammal larger than a hamster. When we look at the animal kingdom, we usually look for majesty. We look for the speed of the cheetah, the strength of the bear, or the intelligence of the octopus. But the cockroach is just there. It feels like a glitch, a leftover asset from a beta version of Earth that the developers forgot to patch out. It's a creature so universally loathed that cockroach is the go-to insult for the lowest form of life. But here is the maddening paradox. Here is the thing that should keep you awake at night, staring at the ceiling, wondering if one is crawling above you right now. The dinosaurs. Gone. The saber-toothed tiger, extinct. The dodo, dead. Even we, the dominant species, struggle to survive without air conditioning and Wi-Fi. Yet, this disgusting, sewer-dwelling dumpster diver has been here for 300 million years. They watched the continents break apart. They watched the asteroid hit the Yucatan. They watched the rise of mammals, and they are currently watching you eat those nachos on your couch. How? How does an animal that seems to be defined by its cowardice and its filth manage to outlast the greatest predators the world has ever seen? Today, we're going to dissect the ultimate survival machine. We're going to drag this creature into the light it hates so much and answer the big question: is the cockroach actually an evolutionary mistake? Or is it the only animal that actually figured out how to win the game? Buckle up, it's going to get gross. 1. Exhibit A, the roast. Welcome to Exhibit A, or as I like to call it, the biological dumpster fire. If you were designing the ultimate survivor, you'd probably give it armor plating, maybe some venom, or perhaps high-level intelligence. Evolution looked at the cockroach and said, nah, let's just make it really greasy and give it a diet consisting exclusively of trash. Let's start with the aesthetics, because shallow as it sounds, appearance matters in the animal kingdom. The cockroach looks like it was dipped in motor oil. That shiny, slick exoskeleton isn't just ugly, it makes them look perpetually wet, which triggers a deep-seated contamination alarm in the human brain. And then there are the legs. 6 of them, covered in these twitchy, sensory spines that look less like biological tools and more like the bristles on a toilet brush that hasn't been changed since the 1990s. But the real flaw, the thing that makes them the pariahs of the ecosystem, is their complete lack of standards. Most animals have a niche. Koalas eat eucalyptus. Lions eat gazelles. Cockroaches, they have no niche. They are the desperate freelancers of biology. They will eat anything. I'm not using hyperbole here. A cockroach's menu includes rotting meat, fresh fruit, paper, cardboard, glue, leather, fingernail clippings, and, in a pinch, solid feces. If you have a book binding glue that's starting to peel, congratulations, you have prepared a 5-star meal for a German cockroach. They are the only creatures on Earth that look at a pile of toenail clippings and think, finally, some good protein. And let's talk about their movement. Have you ever watched a cockroach run? It's not graceful. It doesn't lope or gallop. It scuttles. It moves with this frantic, erratic energy that suggests even it doesn't know where it's going. It's the movement of a creature that knows it's guilty. It's the body language of a thief. There is also the issue of hygiene. We associate them with dirt because they thrive in it. They love the sewer. They love the grease trap. They coat their bodies in pathogens like salmonella and E. coli, acting as a taxi service for disease. They don't bite you like a mosquito or sting you like a wasp. They just walk on your sandwich with feet that were previously walking on a dead rat. That is their primary offensive weapon, passive contamination. It's not warfare, it's bioterrorism through negligence. And then there's the smell. If you've ever had the misfortune of walking into a heavily infested room, you know the scent. It's a musty, sweet, oily odour. That is the smell of pheromones, specifically aggregation pheromones. Yes, cockroaches communicate via smell to tell other cockroaches, hey, this dark, damp corner behind the toilet is fantastic. Bring the whole family. They are distinctively, aggressively uncool. In the grand RPG of life, they put 0 points into charisma, 0 points into strength, and dumped all their stats into being gross. They are the evolutionary equivalent of that guy who crashes your party, drinks all your cheap beer, clogs the toilet, and then refuses to leave. 2. The consequences. So, what kind of lifestyle does this collection of flaws buy you? What is the daily reality of being a cockroach? In a word, pathetic. The cockroach lives a life of perpetual cowardice. Their entire existence is dictated by thigmotaxis. That's a fancy scientific word that means they like to be touched on all sides. A cockroach isn't happy unless it is wedged into a crack so tight that its chest and back are both touching a surface. They crave compression. While an eagle soars through the sky and a wolf runs across the tundra, the cockroach's dream vacation is being squashed between a baseboard and a drywall panel. This need to hide dictates everything. They are photophobic, afraid of the light. Think about that. The sun is the source of all energy on our planet. It drives the weather, grows the plants, and warms the earth. And the cockroach hates it. They are creatures of the dark, scurrying away the moment the lights flick on like vampires with zero sex appeal. And let's look at their social structure. It's a horror show. They don't have the complex hierarchy of bees or the disciplined army of ants. They have aggregations. They just clump together. And if resources get scarce, if the glue on the book binding runs out, they turn on each other. Cannibalism is not a taboo in the cockroach world. It's just plan B. If a cockroach is injured or molting, shedding its skin, its friends will look at its soft, exposed body and see a snack. There is no loyalty in the crevice. Furthermore, their reproductive cycle is the stuff of nightmares. A female German cockroach carries an egg case called an Uthaka. It looks like a little brown purse attached to her rear end. She carries this thing around until just before it hatches, dropping it in a dark corner. One single female can produce hundreds of offspring in a year. This creates a lifestyle of exponential infestation. They don't build a home, they become the home. Because they are prey to literally everything: birds, lizards, spiders, scorpions, small mammals, and angry humans with shoes. They live in a state of constant high-speed panic. They can't fight back. They have no claws for combat, no stingers, no venom. Their only defense mechanism is to run away or, in some cases, hiss. That's right. The Madagascar hissing cockroach's big defensive move is to exhale really loudly. Terrifying. So here we have the picture of a loser, a scavenger, a coward, a cannibal, a creature that lives in filth, eats garbage, hides from the sun, and breeds out of control solely because it dies so easily. By all conventional metrics of success or nobility in the animal kingdom, the cockroach is an F-tier animal. It is a biological embarrassment. Or is it? Because if they are so pathetic, why are they everywhere? If they are so weak, why can't we kill them? If they are such mistakes, why have they outlived the T-Rex by 65 million years? 3. The plot twist. Here is where we have to stop laughing and start looking at the data. Because there is a very fine line between cowardice and tactical brilliance, and the cockroach has been dancing on that line since the Carboniferous period. Let's go back to that moment in the kitchen. You see the roach. You grab a magazine or a shoe, you slam it down with the force of a vengeful god. You lift the shoe, expecting to see a smear, but you don't. You see the roach, slightly dazed, shake itself off and sprint under the fridge. How is that possible? You're thousands of times heavier than it. You just subjected it to a G-force impact that would turn a human into jelly. This is where the narrative shifts. The cockroach isn't gross. It is an engineering marvel disguised as a pest. That oily, creepy exoskeleton. It's not just a shell. It is a shock-absorbing suit of armour that puts Iron Man to shame. A cockroach can withstand compressive forces of up to 900 times its own body weight. To put that in perspective, that is the equivalent of a human being surviving 900 tons falling on their head. That is not biology. That is physics-defying structural integrity. When you step on them, their legs don't snap. They splay out to the side. Their exoskeleton is made of overlapping plates connected by a flexible membrane. It allows them to flatten instantly, distributing the force of your foot across their entire body surface, and then, crucially, spring back into shape the second the pressure is released. They are not crunchy, they are elastic. And that frantic, cowardly running, that is actually one of the fastest reaction times in the known universe. A cockroach has tiny hairs on its cerci, 2 little appendages on its rear. These hairs detect changes in air pressure. When your foot starts moving downward, you're pushing a wave of air ahead of it. The cockroach detects this wind in 8.2 milliseconds. It takes your brain about 200 milliseconds just to process a visual image. By the time your brain has registered, I see a cockroach, the cockroach has already processed the air pressure change, calculated the direction of the threat, sent a signal directly to its legs, bypassing its brain entirely, and begun its escape. You're playing a video game with a 200 millis lag. The cockroach is playing on a LAN connection with 0 latency. You literally cannot move faster than they can think, because they don't think to move. They just react. Suddenly the floors start looking different. They don't eat garbage because they have bad taste. They eat garbage because they have cracked the code of NG efficiency. They possess a digestive system loaded with symbiotic bacteria that allows them to process cellulose, toxins, and waste that would kill other animals. While the panda is going extinct because it only eats one specific type of bamboo, the cockroach can thrive on the glue from a postage stamp. And remember the pathetic hiding? The thigmotaxis, that ability to squeeze into cracks. That is their superpower. A cockroach can compress its body height by 50% and still run at full speed. They can vanish into a gap the height of 2 stacked pennies. They have turned the entire world into a fortress. We thought they were just gross bugs. We were wrong. We are looking at a tank designed by a mad scientist. For the verdict. Ladies and gentlemen, the verdict is in. The cockroach is not an evolutionary mistake. It is the hidden genius of the natural world. The flaws we mocked, the filth, the small size, the lack of complexity, are actually the components of the most robust survival system ever created. Let's talk about the big one, the headless roach. If I cut off your head, you die. Instantly. It's a pretty significant design flaw in mammals. We keep all our processing power and our breathing inputs in one vulnerable knob on top of our necks. If you cut off a cockroach's head, do you know what happens? It gets confused, it walks around, it balances, it responds to touch, and it lives. It can live for weeks without a head. Why? Because the cockroach doesn't breathe through its mouth. It breathes through spiracles, little holes along the sides of its body. Its brain doesn't control its breathing. The blood carries oxygen passively. Its nervous system is decentralized. It has clumps of ganglia, mini brains, all along its body. The only reason a headless cockroach eventually dies is that it has no mouth to drink water, so it dies of dehydration. It doesn't die of trauma. It dies of thirst. That is essentially biological immortality relative to trauma. And then there is the radiation myth. You've heard it. If there's a nuclear war, only the cockroaches will survive. Well, technically, they aren't immune to radiation, but they are vastly more resistant than us. Humans die at about 400 to 1,000 rads. A cockroach can withstand 10,000 rads. This is because radiation kills cells that are dividing. Humans are constantly replacing blood and skin cells. Cockroaches only undergo massive cell division when they are molting, growing a new shell, which happens once every few weeks. Unless you nuke them on the exact day they are molting, they essentially shrug it off. Let's look at the milk. Yes, you heard me. The Pacific beetle cockroach, Diploptera punctata, produces a milk-like crystal to feed its young inside its body. Scientists have analysed this cockroach milk. It is 3 times more energy dense than buffalo milk, one of the most caloric milks in nature. It is a complete food source containing proteins, fats and sugars. They have essentially invented a superfood to ensure their babies grow into tanks as fast as possible. We mocked them for having no honour for not hunting. But hunting is dangerous. Hunting requires energy. Scavenging requires efficiency. The cockroaches realise that the best way to win the game of life isn't to be the king of the jungle, it's to be the janitor. The king gets overthrown. The janitor always has a job. They are the ultimate minimalist. They stripped away everything that wasn't necessary for survival. Who needs a complex emotional brain? Who needs a beautiful coat of fur? Who needs specific dietary requirements? The cockroach is a biological algorithm set to if alive. Then you reproduce. They are the beta testers of Earth. Nature threw ice ages at them. They survived. Nature threw asteroids at them. They survived. Nature threw humans with chemical warfare sprays and boots at them. And what did they do? They developed resistance to the poisons within a single generation. We invent a new pesticide and 10 years later, they're eating it for breakfast. We look at them with disgust because they remind us of our own mortality. We're fragile. We are soft. We need specific temperatures and clean water. The cockroach needs nothing. They are the mirror that shows us how weak we actually are. The genius of the cockroach is that it accepted its place at the bottom, and because it is at the bottom, it can never fall. It can only endure. So the next time you turn on the kitchen light and see that dark shape skitter across the floor, don't just feel disgust. Feel a little bit of fear, and maybe, just maybe, feel a little bit of respect. You are looking at a creature that has mastered the art of existing. You're looking at a 300 million year old design that is still perfectly functional. You're looking at the species that will likely be crawling over the ruins of our cities long after we have turned to dust. They aren't the bugs in the system, they are the feature. So if you agree that an animal's repulsive habits and cowardly lifestyle can actually be its blueprint for biological immortality, then it's subscribe to join us at Animastorian and let me know in the comments. What animal's hidden genius should we uncover next? Stay curious, stay humble, and check your shoes. See you next time.